for those watching at home, but also you in the audience tonight. But it's newer to us, so there might be some transitional issues with that. With that, the time is 6:00 p.m. I'm going to call the meeting to order, but if you have a phone call that you need to keep doing, you could do that in the hallway. This meeting of your Pontiac City Council is hereby called to order, and we give the floor now to Councilman Parker to introduce this evening's invocation.
Thank you, Brother President. This evening we will have our invitation given to us by Pastor Emeritus Kathy Desereau.
And what you may need to do is, if you see the button to the right, is you'll need to press that button to the right to activate that microphone. See the two buttons at the base there? Now it is on.
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Pontiac, and good evening to the board. It's a special week. It's Thanksgiving. And we all have different things to be thankful for. And so tonight, as we pray over the council and we pray over this meeting, could we try to emphasize the things we're thankful for and not dote on the things that we're unhappy with? May this be a meeting of thanks tonight. Father, we come to you tonight with thankful hearts. It may be cold, but we're alive and we have heat. It may be snowy, but we have boots to wear and shoes on our feet, and many people don't. And Lord, we just ask that as we embark on this meeting tonight, that each family that's represented, that each family in Pontiac would not go hungry on Thursday, but that they would have something on their table to be thankful for. And tonight, as we come before you with the needs of the city, may we find answers that we can be thankful for as a city, and may each family represented here have special blessings this week, for we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. If you could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll stay standing for a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remain standing. We join now together as a community to remember those that we have lost since we gathered last, those that are in your family, your neighborhoods, your congregation, your workplaces, and especially at this time of Thanksgiving, we express our gratitude and thanks for those that are still with us and in good health. Let us join in a moment of silence to remember those that are suffering and those that we've lost. Please be seated. Roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Present.
Goodman,
Here.
James,
Here.
McGinnis,
Present.
Nicholson,
Here.
Parker,
President.
Rutherford. Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Quorum being established, we now would like a motion to excuse Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford from this evening's meeting for personal reasons.
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilman Goodman, seconded by Pro Tem Carrington. That motion is now before us. Clerk Doyle.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. Council members, now that we have established roll call and quorum, this evening's question for council members, what you are thankful for this Thanksgiving season, something for which you're grateful. And I'll start with Councilman Parker of District 5.
As always. Thank you, brother, because I'm thankful for so many things. I'm thankful for the love of family and friends. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to continue to be a servant that God called me to be. I'm thankful for the abilities that I have to be able to listen and observe and help people along the way. I'm thankful for the fact that all of my children are still safe and happy and well. I'm thankful that I get to sit here each Tuesday night and listen to the concerns of this city and hopefully be able to be a help too in regards to those concerns of this city. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Councilwoman Kathleen James, District 4.
I am thankful, I guess, most of all, for being thankful. Just meditating on thankfulness and giving thanks, and being thankful is probably one of the greatest blessings that anyone could ever have. When we look around us, look at our world, and look at the people who are not thankful and who just don't get it, it's just a wonderful thing that God has given us that spirit of being able to be thankful for the things that he's given us and the things that he has done for us. So I'm thankful to be thankful.
Yes, ma'am. President Pro Tem Carrington, District 6.
Thank you, President McGinnis. Actually, I'm just going to rally what they just said. I'm thankful for everything they just said, but make it simplistic. But most important, I'm thankful that I wake up every morning. In the last 3 years, we've been through a pandemic. So many of my friends and family are no longer here. So I'm thankful that I continue to wake up in the morning.
Councilman Mikhail Goodman, District 3.
I guess the first and easiest one is I'm thankful for being well again. I was very sick last week, so that's a very simple one. But I mean, obviously, just thankful to be alive and being able to do the work that I do. To be again here, still breathing amongst us, is a very basic thing to be thankful for, and I'll just really keep it there.
Yes, sir. Councilman Brett Nicholson, District 2.
I'm thankful for a year where we can be together again. I'm thankful for the people and all of us that made the sacrifices to make that possible, for the people that engineered and worked on vaccines and stayed home and did what they needed to do so we could be, this week having each other around. I mean, it's a different experience than the last two, so I'm thankful for that.
Well said. Deputy Mayor Stevens, are you thankful?
I am, thank you. I mean, the council has already said it so many times, so I won't repeat that, but I am definitely thankful for the opportunity to be able to serve. Like, so many people just don't have the opportunity, A, to do what they love, but B, and I think probably more importantly in this context, to actually be able to do, right? So I'm thankful for that opportunity.
Yes, sir. Mayor Grimo, what comes to mind?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that I'm really grateful to all of you as city council people, because you're all very diligent and hardworking and thoughtful and deliberative, and really are focused on collaborating in the best interest of residents. So I that's a very genuine comment. I regularly think about how fortunate I am as a mayor to have such a great group of 7 city council people. The other thing, though, that I'll just say is I think at least I, probably a lot of us, often get caught up in the day-to-day hustle and bustle, the day-to-day work that we're engaged in. And what I really need to remind myself about is being more thankful on a regular basis for my health, for my friends, for family, and just for the experience of being alive, which I know I often lose sight of and get caught up in work and day-to-day stress, as opposed to thinking about the bigger picture.
Clerk Doyle?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm thankful for family. The last couple of days have actually been a little rough for me. This is the first, as we go into these seasons of holidays, without both of my parents. But I'm thankful for the lives that they did live, and I'm thankful for the life that they gave me and the learnings and stuff that I learned from them. So I'm thankful for family. Thank you.
Legislative Council Sharp.
Something similar to Clerk Doyle. My family has been gone for quite some time, and so I think I am very thankful for the memories that I have. And it's just something that I know I was fortunate to have the family that I had, and I miss them, but I cherish the memories, and I'm just actually grateful for being me. Thank you.
And I'll conclude. I'm Mike McGinnis from District 7. I am blessed to have one of my grandparents still living, and in a few days she'll turn 97 years young. She is from England originally. On my mother's side, they were both British immigrants, both fought in World War II It's how they met. So she's a World War II veteran and seen a great deal in her life, including when the Germans were bombing London and she was in the subway underground. But for her to be of sound mind and sound body at nearly 97 is just such a blessing. And I'm really grateful for the continued opportunity to learn from her and let her know how much she means to me. So with that, thank you all for your time and sharing. Is there a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Goodman. Is there any discussion, any amendments, any clarifications? Hearing none, roll call on adoption of the agenda as presented. Clerk Doyle.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We'll proceed accordingly. Is there a motion to adopt this evening's consent agenda?
So move.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Parker, seconded by Councilman Nicholson. Not a debatable motion. It includes 2 sets of meeting minutes, including the most recent regular City Council meeting of November 15th and the Finance and Personnel Subcommittee meeting of November 10th. Roll call on adoption of that consent agenda. Clerk Doyle.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson.
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. That brings us to our special presentation this evening. As many in Michigan may be aware, we had a new election cycle, a general election a few weeks back, but also every 10 years, the state's required to redraw lines for Congress, State House, State Senate. And we are really grateful for the 4 years that we were represented by State Senator Rosemary Bader, and I'm pleased to report, although her district no longer includes Pontiac, she was reelected and she'll be serving in a 4-year term, but her district no longer includes Pontiac. And we're very blessed to have this evening the new state senator representing Pontiac in the new 7th district? Okay, so we're in State Senate District 7. It spans from Pontiac down to Southfield. And the individual elected was a state senator for the last 4 years, and so he has been reelected to his 2nd term. He'll now represent Pontiac, and he's also just been announced that he's going to be the Speaker Pro Tem of the Michigan State Senate, which is a very notable distinction. So now we bring up to the podium for a special presentation the Honorable State Senator Jeremy Moss, Pontiac's new representative in the upper chamber of the state legislature.
Thank you so much, Council President, Council, Mayor, Administration. I am Jeremy Moss. I'm currently the state senator at the south end of Oakland County. And as the Council President said, with the redrawing of the lines, this new redistricting commission drew a district that is the Telegraph Corridor. So it actually starts at 7 Mile in Detroit, works its way up through Southfield and Lathrop Village, my hometowns, Beverly Hills, Bingham Farms, Franklin, Bloomfield Hills, Bloomfield Township, Pontiac, Auburn Hills, Lake Angeles, and 3 precincts in Waterford. So I'm going from 7 Mile Detroit up to Waterford. It's a big district, but I spent a considerable amount of time over this past year once these lines were drawn and announced, getting to know the community here in Pontiac. I'm a lifelong resident of Southfield in Oakland County, and 11 years ago, I actually started my journey as the youngest ever member of the Southfield City Council. So I have a huge passion for local government, not just for government's sake, but I enjoyed every minute of that term on the City Council representing my neighbors. And, I've served in the state legislature for the past 8 years, but city councils are where the rubber meets the road and where you can feel the most immediacy of the impact of your work. And so to that end, when I did run for the state legislature in 2014 and served 2 terms in the Michigan House representing Southfield and surrounding areas, I really wanted to be that connecting point between state government and local communities back home. I had the distinct honor and pleasure of serving with then Representative, our Democratic leader at the time, Tim Greimel. And one of the things that we were most passionate about was allowing local communities to have the resources to succeed. Nobody in this room needs me to lecture about the challenges of having emergency managers. And had this state continued to fund its cities at the same level of revenue sharing that was anticipated by these communities, we could have headed off a lot of those challenges that many communities in our state faced with emergency managers. The last several years, we've been heading in the right direction, but now that we have a new majority in the Michigan Senate, in which, as the council president mentioned, I will be the presiding officer of the Michigan Senate. I really am looking forward to bringing more support back home. It's something that's very important to me as a community member here, as a former city councilman, and it's important to me because of all the connections I've made in Pontiac for this last year of the campaign. I want to really be somebody who delivers support. To that end, also, I'll talk about some of the legislation I have been working on and want to continue to work on. Even as a member of the minority party in Lansing, I still was pretty impactful and made relationships across the aisle to pass 8 bills into law, which was no small feat for a Democrat in the minority, and touched just about every single aspect of your life. From education, I passed legislation to make it easier for somebody to go back and earn the credits that they needed had they dropped out of high school and needed credits to complete their diploma. We continued the lifeline of a very successful dropout recovery program, so those people could go back, earn the classes that they needed to get their high school diploma. I've been very focused on housing, and I know that is a critical thing that the city is looking at. We have a package of bills that are right now continuing our work. It's sitting on the Senate floor waiting to be sent to the governor to give local city councils more tools in the toolbox to provide property tax relief, payments in lieu of taxes, other incentives for homeowners and developers to build and live in attainable housing. And I'm really eager to work with the community here to continue those tools in the toolbox and bring more results back home here in Pontiac. Also been very focused on criminal justice reform. One of the pieces of legislation that I had signed into law made it easier for people who have had a past criminal conviction to move their lives forward and not have these artificial barriers to employment. Specifically, the state, when it licenses people for job licenses in the state of Michigan, they ask you for a background check. They ask you to defend your moral character. But the criminal conviction in and of itself can be a knock on your moral character, and it could prevent you from getting the job license. So when somebody has committed a crime and they paid their debt to society, we can't also sentence them to a lifetime of unemployment and unemployability. So we've reformed the definition of good moral character so that criminal conviction in and of itself cannot be held against you when you're seeking a job that the state licenses, that it has to be about testimonials, your career path, your aspirations, the things that you're doing to move your life forward. Nobody wins and everybody loses if we keep people in this perpetual cycle in the criminal justice system. So this was a partnership across the aisle, working with strange bedfellows from criminal justice champions like the ACLU to conservative groups that wanted to cut bureaucratic red tape like the Mackinac Center to find a space where we could help those to find a job here in the state of Michigan. So that's what I had been working on that has actually made it into law. Obviously, we have a new majority in the state legislature. I'm excited to continue to improve access to the ballot box and support voting rights. That was a charge that was given to us from our voters that passed Proposal 2 this past time around. We're going to have to implement a system of early voting, which is great, and make sure that those people who just can't access the ballot box for those 11, 12 hours on a Tuesday have the accessibility to be able to early vote. So that's something that you enshrined into our Constitution, and it's going to be the legislature that sets up that framework for 9 days of early voting. I'm also a founding member, when I served in the legislature, of our Gun Violence Prevention Caucus. So back in June of 2016, a few lawmakers and I got together to put forward solutions to reduce gun violence. And from June of 2016 until just this most recent mass shooting, just over the weekend, but also everyday gun violence that plagues our communities, the majority in the legislature has squandered opportunities to take forward proven measures to reduce gun deaths and injuries. We have introduced legislation to strengthen background checks. We have introduced legislation to enact red flag laws. So if somebody is on the radar of law enforcement, we can make sure that there's at least a temporary restraining order from them possessing a firearm if they are going to carry out a threat to others or to themselves. Safe storage laws requiring safe storage in homes that have minors in them. So these are common sense laws that have been implemented in other states, and we're looking forward to having this discussion of what can we do to mitigate these gun violence tragedies. So that's some of the work I'm eager to work on, but as the council president said, I will be the new senator in this district starting January 1. Some things that I typically do and have done over the last 4 years in the state Senate and 4 years prior to that as state representative is I host monthly coffee hours. I'm looking forward to bringing those up to Pontiac. We host a yearly senior summit where we gather all the minds in the communities that bring resources and services to our senior community, including elected officials, AARP, Elder Law of Michigan, and other organizations like Area Agency on Aging, to basically have kind of this one-stop shop for seniors in our community to get the resources they need. I'm looking forward to bringing that into the district, possibly even finding a location to hold it in Pontiac. So we're a very active office, and I'm very, very excited to bring this energy and enthusiasm I have at the state capitol here into the community. So I wanted to say hello now that we're a couple weeks past the election, but I am not going to be a stranger here in Pontiac or Pontiac City Hall.
Welcome. With that, we'll give the floor to members of the body for questions and feedback. Mayor Greimel.
Well, first of all, it's great to see you as always, and I've seen you a few times in recent months. But you know, it really was a privilege to serve with you in the State House, Senator, and thrilled, of course, to see you 4 years ago move on to the State Senate. And you've just been an incredibly effective legislator. You know, I know that for a lot of residents around the state, they know their own legislator, but they don't really see how their legislator works with other legislators in Lansing and with the governor's office. And as great as our current, I guess still current state senator is through the end of December, Rosemary Bayer, and she is truly great, we are so fortunate to have you representing us beginning in January, because you're really among the top cream of the crop when it comes to legislators who are able to work effectively with members of both parties and really get things done and deliver results. So I appreciate your longstanding friendship, but I'm also thrilled that all of us here in Pontiac will have the benefit of being represented by you starting in January.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it too.
Councilman Goodman.
So I just wanted to say I'm very happy to have you here, Jeremy. I think it's really important to tell the people of Pontiac, I guess, how lucky we got to have Senator Jeremy Moss here, because as a person who does a lot of work, not just here in Pontiac, but throughout the county, especially somewhat in Southfield, I know how harsh those residents can be. I know how harsh we can be on ourselves. So he is no stranger to hard work. He is no stranger to having demanding residents, because he recognizes just how important it is to be able to meet your needs. So I am more than excited to have you representing the city that I also help represent. So it's nice to have a friend up here.
We're going to have a great partnership.
Councilman Nicholson.
I want to add to that. There have been so many times where I've seen Senator Moss advocate for constituents and for our region already, where I get goosebumps listening to how passionate and how in depth he really understands the issues. I've brought very complex and strange, interwoven state government issues to you, and you've just been able. I mean, sometimes they've been 3-hour-long conversations with other legislators, and in 20 minutes you said, "I got it, I understand it. This is what I need to do." And I was like, "Wow, okay, yeah, enough said." But I'm excited because we've always wanted, and needed a fighter for Pontiac, and I don't know another person who is as eloquent and passionate as you are. So I'm excited to be able to work with you.
I appreciate it, and to put a fine point on it, to me, that's what it's all about. It's all about the residents. I certainly, love the day-to-day work of policymaking, but you're the reason why I want to do this. So I really look forward to being a fighter for the residents here.
President Pro Tem Carrington, followed by Councilwoman James.
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. Congrats, sir.
Thank you.
I just want to commend you on taking up the fight of returning citizens. I know that so many Democrats have actually spoken about this over the years, but none have actually taken up the fight once they got to Lansing. So I know so many men that have changed their lives, but yet were denied professional licenses by the state of Michigan. So I commend you again for taking up that fight.
You got it. And there's so much more work to be done. And we have a whole list. So I'm open to more ideas.
Councilwoman James.
Yes, I too congratulate you on your win. Rosemary Bayer did a wonderful job representing us, and I know that you will follow suit. I'm also hugely excited that for the first time in decades, we have a Democratic Senate and House of Representatives in Lansing. And I am hoping, I'm going to throw a challenge at you. I would like to see the state of Michigan come up with a real plan for dealing with our young people that are in protective care. I think that whole system of children being taken from their homes and put in that system is a broken system. I think it's something that our state really needs to look at and really needs to start working on what can we do to really meet the needs of today's families. I think what we're doing now is just, it's not cutting it. So I'm going to throw that challenge out to our first Democratic Senate, that if you guys would look at that system and look at what could be done to improve that. You know, it concerns me that we still allow kids to time out of being on to be under the Child Protective Services, and they come out of it with absolutely no services whatsoever. That we've got kids 17 and 18 years old coming out of Child Protective Services with no plan at all, and I think that is just horrible. So the state needs to address it. We need a better plan, and now that we have a Democratic administration, I'm hopeful that that is one of the problems that the state will look at attacking.
Challenge accepted, and it sounds like you have a lot of expertise and knowledge on this, so I'm looking forward to working with you on this.
Okay.
And to reinforce that point, Pontiac has an acute number of cases in terms of children that are in foster care or had been in foster care in their youth, and it's something that, in particular, Pontiac would benefit from that broken system being given the attention, reform, and resources that are woefully underinvested.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Brother President. Again, Senator Moss, thank you, sir. I commend you for your undertaking of the melting pot of bringing leadership of the city together, especially as you have included want to include some of the senior citizens in our community, because they are a viable part of our community, and they are usually the group that's left by the wayside as we talk about how to move this city forward. So I commend you for at least trying to undertake that great responsibility of including them in the process of moving Pontiac forward. So congratulations, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, and likewise.
And on a final note, I have known now State Senator Moss for over 14 years. When I was campaign manager for Andy Meisner, when he was elected Oakland County Treasurer, Jeremy helped lead then Southfield Mayor Brenda Lawrence's campaign for Oakland County Executive. And so obviously, I think it's 14 years that you continue to impress and excel, and just extremely, extremely excited and proud of you for how you continue to grow and refine your public policy and your public leadership skills. And I know Pontiac will be well served, not only from a very engaged and active state senator. We speak about Rosemary Bayer, but before that, we had a state senator for 8 years named Jim Marlowe, and he never came to Pontiac, never had really any coffee hours, things like that. So it was already a very big change, and we look forward to you continuing that engaged, responsive approach. No disrespect to Jim Marlowe, but hey, come on, man.
We didn't see much of him at our end of the district either.
But I just finally want to say on behalf of the people of Pontiac, congratulations, and also congratulations on being identified by your peers in the state Senate as Speaker Pro Tem of the state Senate. For Pontiac, we have not had a state senator that has had that type of leadership role in many decades. We have been blessed in the State House to have a House Democratic leader within the past decade plus, and now he's our mayor. So hearing no further discussion, let's give a warm Pontiac round of applause to our new State Senator, Jeremy Moss.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Don't be a stranger. We know you won't,
I will
but
not be.
We'll take you up on that commitment to continue to engage with the City Council and our community. We now are at recognition of elected officials. I see we have from the Pontiac Library Board, the Honorable H. Bill Maxey. You have the floor, sir, from the Pontiac Library Board.
Good evening, and thank you, Mr. President. The information coming from the library, first of all, we want to thank the CNS for presenting 500 turkeys to the city of Pontiac. Secondly, Michael Garrett, the CEO, has performed this type of service or have given this type of service to this community for over 5 years. I've been on the executive board for 7 or 8 years. We intend to give him a thank you and an honorarium, a plaque that says thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I'll send you a copy of that, and hopefully the mayor too can recognize that, because we do have 3,500 recipients or consumers in mental health. So thanks very much for that. Oh, one other thing. My telephone number is 248-762-4953. We have about 6 turkeys left. If anyone hearing us tonight, call that number. I'll give you a code. I'll stay in the parking lot. We're not trying to give turkeys away for everyone, but I will stay in the parking lot until those 6 or 7 are given out. If you can't make it tonight, we will deliver tomorrow. My number is 248-762-4953, and I will be there till about 10:30. Again, for those who don't have, and we're not really looking forward to this distribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have the chair of the Pontiac Charter Revision Commission, Tamika Ramsey. You can have the floor if you like, or you can just wave to your adoring constituents. Yes, yes. Other elected officials that wish to address us? I see that we have, is there a proclamation or a tribute from the state of Michigan from Representative Carter, or it's just a? Okay, okay, very good. Didn't want to shortchange it if they needed the floor. Hearing no other requests for recognition of elected officials, we move now to agenda address, the opportunity for residents to speak to something before we as a body consider it in the agenda. It'll be followed mid-meeting by public comment. So if you signed up for agenda address and public comment, and we can tell that you meant public comment, we'll call you in public comment. Pro Tem Carrington, any requests for agenda address tonight?
Yes, thank you, President McGinnis. Ms. Gloria Miller.
Yes, that's an item on the agenda, so you can speak on that.
And this is to you, Mr. Moss, if you watch the council agenda. I want to speak with you or meet with you or anyone in regards to the intersection of Woolward and South Boulevard. It was another accident there this week. Someone is going to get killed there, Mr. Moss. Seriously. It was all over Facebook the other night. And I know I've been to Lansing, I've been there many times, but most of the time I was up there protesting for something that was for the city of Pontiac. But I would look forward to working with you. I'm a former council person. You can work with them too, but I'm a citizen now, so I'm more active as a citizen than I was up there. I like this space better. And something needs to happen on South Boulevard in Woolward. MDOT said they can't put it up there because it had to take a year. So our lives don't mean anything until a year. Someone's going to get killed there. And believe me so, when it does, I'm coming down here. And it could be some of my relatives, could be some friend of mine. It is a very dangerous intersection. MDOT should be made to whatever to put a light there, because we got no other way out of the city of Pontiac on that end. No other way. And I just want to address that to you publicly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to take a liberty and say, to that very point, so obviously M1 Woodward Avenue is a state road. We also have a deteriorated bridge situation. The bridge has been closed for Martin Luther King Boulevard South. The mayor may have already updated you, but the mayor has engaged with our current state legislative officials and other state agency officials. But it's a really, to elaborate further, it's a really serious concern, and it's really the state of Michigan that's literally at the crossroads there of those crossroads. And it's important for our residents. It's also important for our major employers along South Boulevard and Woodward Avenue, including a very large hospital, which is right there. Sorry for
Chuck
that
Johnson.
editorial comment.
Agenda item, sir?
I will first start by sending a get well prayer to Reverend Keys. I just realized that he's still in the hospital, and you know, he's a real good friend of mine as well as a pastor, but I want to send along a get well prayer to him. I want to look at 4 and 6. Number 4, I'm pleased to see this resolution on the agenda tonight, that the city is going to undertake awarding a contract to the minority business PDSI contractors. And I think this is the first contract that I'm aware of that was awarded to a local minority company. And I'm hoping that as we go forward, we're going to see more of these contracts coming out. Number 6 on your agenda is the question, what progress in tackling abandoned vehicles on Pontiac neighborhood streets. Well, I've been arguing this point for 2 years on Mechanic Street, and I've called the chair's attention to it. I've called the mayor's attention to it. I've called the police department attention to it. But I need to know what initiative and what the plan is going to be as it relates to our build. And I also brought it to the Building and Safety Department.
That does conclude your time.
Dang, that was quick. I still got 3 minutes. I'm going to come back.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Maxey.
Thank you again. As a community activist, I want to look at 4 and public comments. Mr. Johnson beat me to the punch, but thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was 7 years since we've had an African-American company to get a major contract. Next, congratulations to the first Supreme Court Justice, African-American, female. Secondly, to our state representative, who also, she won the election. And of course, to Jeremy Moss, who was our senator. Let me give you a little history. In 1996, I was in Lansing too, as a young fellow there. And my cousin Morris Hewitt was the last African-American to have any authority over finances. Standing on the shoulder of Representative Holmes and Hewitt and others, we're to this point. And I'm very proud of it, particularly the new Supreme Court Justice Boland. And by the way, Bernstein, Attorney Bernstein, when I was at Wayne State, I would push him home in his wheelchair for about a year. He didn't have a ride, so I'd make sure that he'd get in his house and be well secured and taken care of. Now, number 6. Number 5, time out for discussions. Time out. $150,000. Oakland County Sheriff had this grant last year. It went into technology. Technology. If I think of the name of the grant while I'm speaking, I can't recall. It did not go to the body cameras. It is no excuse. We pay them over $16 million a year. No excuse not to have body cameras. And $150,000 could have been split. It could have been shared. Look it up, Council.
That does conclude your time.
Thank you very much. Still want that looked into.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Deidre Waterman, and that's the last person on agenda address. And what items, Doctor?
Depending on the time, I'll speak to B4 and 6. And the spirit of the Thanksgiving holiday is upon us. I'm wishing everybody a happy holiday season for Thanksgiving. Bonneville, great to see you. Senator Jeremy Moss, we've known each other a long time since we were candidates with the same campaign manager early on. And as our president asked you about the Martin Luther King Bridge, it brings back memories of my early term as mayor, when one of the first problems I was confronted with was the fact that Orchard Lake was closed under the Phoenix Center by the emergency manager, and people were just for 2 years. And so one of the first things I had to find out was how to get Orchard Lake open, because that was a major conduit east to west, was a real inconvenience to citizens. So that was something I had to get solved, and we did that in good time and opened that up. And so I know the same kind of thing that befronts our mayor now in terms of the Martin Luther King Bridge. But great to have you here. Hope to work with you a lot in the future. One of the things I wanted to speak to as well was on the agenda is the minutes from the last meeting when you approved the ARP money budget. And the ARP budget, you took some ideas that we had from the town halls we had during administration. This was money that I'm pretty protective of, because I had to fight to get this $38.7 million brought to the city. And it's supposed to be for COVID relief for our citizens or our businesses, and maybe transformational ideas such as bringing broadband. I see you've decided to do that for some of the COVID relief things, and also for adding it to your budget. The one thing that worries me about it is how much is being spent on administrative costs. 30% of it is on administrative costs when you add the $10 million that you took out and you added to the budget to cut the structural deficit. So I'll have time to talk about that more, but that's money that I was very protective. I had to write the Secretary of the Treasury to get that money, because they were only going to give us $5 million, and $38 million is a lot more, and it should be really for every man, woman, and child in the city of Pontiac.
Does conclude your time.
Yes.
That concludes agenda address, President McGinnis.
Thank you very much. We move now to the resolution to authorize the city clerk to propose the proposed budget amendment. Is there a motion to adopt that resolution?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Councilman Goodman. It's now before us. This budget amendment would increase the budget appropriation in the general fund GL account 101-201-818.000, other professional services in the amount of $80,000. With this motion, we're authorizing the clerk to put it out there in the newspaper so that the community can know, and it'll come back ultimately to be decided 2 weeks from now. I want to give the floor to the mayor and administration to give us the scoop.
Thank you, President McGinnis. I'll defer to Deputy Mayor Stevens to get into the details of the budget amendment.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, City Council. As you know, we are severely short-staffed in our finance department, and so in order to prepare for the audit, we needed to bring in help. We had some money already assigned to other professional services. Most of those funds were actually expended on the audit, the forensic audit. And so this is putting enough money back into that account to actually cover the cost of the accountants that we have brought in to prepare us for the audit.
The regular audit. Any further discussion? Again, this motion would authorize the clerk to post this notice. It'll be back in 2 weeks. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Speakers list exhausted. Roll call on adoption. Clerk Doyle.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve an agreement between the city and Carlisle Workman Associates, Inc. for plan review services on a temporary basis for 3 months?
Moved by Carrington.
Support.
It has been moved by President Pro Tem Carrington and seconded by Councilman Nicholson. That motion is now before us. Mayor Administration.
Thank you, President McGinnis. I would defer to our Community Development Director, Rachel Loughran, to discuss this item.
Sorry, I took my jacket off because it's so warm in here, but I feel like it's more professional if I wear it. Okay, so The Planning Division of the Community Development Department, beginning on Tuesday, November 22nd, will not have any employees with City of Pontiac plan review experience. While newly hired planning manager Mark Yendrick is looking to fill open positions for the planning department, staff recommends utilizing plan review resources from a consultant, Carlisle Wortman Associates Incorporated, for approximately 3 months until planning staff can be hired and properly trained to process planning and zoning reviews in a timely and efficient manner. The reason we need to do this is because our former planning manager left in September. He has now been replaced, but that person has only been on board for about 6 days. Shortly after the new planning manager came on board, the planner that we had has decided to take another job elsewhere and gave us notice that yesterday would be his last day. We have a backlog of plans and need the additional help from the consultant to help us work through those plans and stay on top of any new submittals that come in. We receive approximately 30 to 45 new submittals every month. So it is for this reason that we request that the City Council approve this agenda item.
All right, Deputy Mayor?
To put a more vivid description on what Director Loughran is describing to you, the City of Pontiac was operating for a very long time with only 2 people in the planning department, the planning manager and the planner. And she already told you about the turnover that we've had, but since Director Loughran has come in and since Manager Yandrick has come in, we have actually found a number of, I will call them structural deficiencies that need to be addressed. And so in order for Manager Yandrick to actually address those structural deficiencies, he needs someone to be doing the day-to-day work so that we don't get further behind than what we already are.
Councilman Parker.
Thank you, sir. My question is that certainly we recognize that there's a lot of people that have left, but how much additional funding would it require for this company to be here for the next 3 months?
Well, I do believe that if we can replace the planner within the next 3 months, it will not require any additional funding. We have money in a professional services account in the general ledger that we can put toward paying for this, and we are no longer paying that planner's salary or his healthcare expenses. So we do have that money left in the budget.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
President Pro Tem Carrington.
Well, actually, President McGinnis, Councilman Parker asked the same question.
Very good. Further discussion? Councilman Nicholson.
So you answered the question succinctly about the not having to spend. I want to know what kind of numbers we're looking at. Like, so if we, over the next 3 months, without spending, what would be coming from the professional services line?
What I imagine how many hours would be put forward, that's a very difficult question for me to answer. I don't know how many hours they have to give us, but we do need the support. So quite honestly, the more the better. It would be nice to catch up on our backlog and move some of these issues through the system so we can move forward and have a clean slate when the new planners come in.
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around we've got 3 months, we've got, you said 35 to 40 plans. About how long does the typical plan take for review? Do you know?
It varies depending on what kind of a plan it is. Site plan review takes longer, but a lot of our plans are driveways, fences, sign permits, things like that. Those take a lot less time, but those can be handled very quickly on staff. That's not something that we would send to this group.
So you feel that currently where we had a planning manager that worked 40 hours a week, right?
Right.
Will they be doing the same caseload, or is there more or different that they're, or less that they're going to be handling than
The planning
he?
manager, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. The planning manager that is on board will continue to work 40 hours a week, and he will handle new reviews, and the backlog is what we will transfer over to Carlisle and Associates. I don't have a complete list of exactly what that backlog is. The planning manager has only been here for 6 days, so he's trying to work through and create that list. But at this point, there are a lot of projects that need to be reviewed and pushed forward.
Yeah,
So-
I guess I have an hourly rate schedule, but I don't have a cost estimate is my concern. That's all.
Further discussion? I do want to emphasize that Carlisle Workman and Associates works with many different municipalities throughout Michigan. They're very established and highly regarded. I've seen their work in some other communities where they've done a comparable role. They've filled in when the leadership of that community development or that planning division departs, and they're able to provide that and pitch hit and provide that reinforcement. So I'm very comfortable with their professional capacity and their team's bandwidth. Councilwoman James.
Who is going to maintain the planning meetings? Will that be the new manager?
Yes, the planning manager will take care of all of the planning meetings.
And also, I'd like to ask Deputy Mayor, what are some of the, give me an example of what are the structural deficiencies that you're saying are
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, so absolutely. Standard operating procedures. So as we're going through and looking for all of the steps and processes, they have not been properly written down. And so Mr. Yandrick needs to go through and make sure that everything is in a proper fashion. He also needs to, as he is looking at the department, we have job descriptions, we have, jobs for posting, but he also needs to ask, are those the right descriptions for exactly what it is that we need here in the city of Pontiac?
I'm going to make a request. I don't need to codify it in a motion or in even a resolution language, but for the community's benefit, the mayor or deputy mayor often each week provides some summary updates from the executive administration to the legislative branch. You may want to, as this particular contract becomes active, give us a synopsis of, 2 weeks in, how many hours are we looking at? Because what we have is the rate sheet, so we know what that rate would be, and you can be as granular as you like with what the end result is financially. But it would be very appropriate for us as the legislative body to be able to, on an active basis, monitor just because of the unique nature. And it may be to the community's benefit for our economic development projects to maintain a more substantial engagement with Carlisle Workman if we find that projects are coming in at a steadier clip, if there's other staff instability. So I just want us as a council to have that information when it comes up with how many billable hours, essentially. Mayor Greimel.
Yeah, we're happy to do that, and it's a really good point, Mr. President. And I'll go a step further and just say that as we track the number of hours, we'll provide not just a budget update, which is important, obviously, especially so that we can track as to whether or not we are within the existing department budget in light of the position vacancies, in light of the fact that there already was some money budgeted for consulting services for this year. But in addition, we'll give you an update as to the progress that we're making in that planning division when it comes to addressing things that have been neglected for many, many years. Deputy Mayor Stevens spoke to that when he talked about the fact that there aren't standard operating procedures, that there really is no written guidance or written policies about how staff is to conduct certain procedures and really conduct themselves on a day-to-day basis in terms of timeframes for approving site plans and other basic timelines and policies and procedures. So when Director Loughran hired a new planning manager, a key focus was on hiring a planning manager with the needed experience to really put those written policies in place. It's something that we're going through with all of our departments because it's something that was neglected under the previous administration and probably administrations before that. And we need to have those basic structural items addressed if we're really going to flourish as a city and deliver the timely, quality city services that our residents and business owners alike deserve.
Further discussion? Councilwoman James.
Well, I appreciate everything that's been said. I think the other issue, though, is just the idea of employee turnover at the city is at an uncomfortable level for me as a council person. So I would hope that, you know, as we put these policies and procedures and written job instructions in place, that we are, as a city, moving to stabilizing employee tenure so that we're not always in these crunch situations where, you know, folks have to be brought in because there's nobody to do the job. So hopefully, I mean, employee turnover is an issue, and I just want to say that. I want to say that I'm concerned about it. I do think that there's work to be done to improve that.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Okay.
I 100% understand your comment, and I agree that stabilization of all of our division employees is number one. That's how we're really going to turn things around and move forward.
Mayor Grimel.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. I think from our perspective, the key is retaining and attracting good employees and making sure that we're improving the quality of staffing here at City Hall. And so without getting in, obviously, to any details about any specific individuals, there have been, you know, one or two employees we've lost who we've been disappointed to lose, but there have been other employees, frankly, whose turnover is welcome because we need to improve the quality of staffing at City Hall. And as we hold departments and divisions accountable for results, that will, by necessity, result in some turnover. And so, you know, I can tell you that we'll see some additional turnover as we finish up our first year here in office and as we seek to improve the quality of staffing at City Hall. And that's necessary as we make sure that we're really improving service delivery. We have a lot of really good employees here at City Hall, but we have other employees who at times were not getting the job done.
Councilman Nicholson.
Yeah, I want to echo the mayor's sentiment. I think, you know, working in personnel and in human resources, the biggest reason I see turnover, one is that people are unsure of what their responsibilities are, so it's really difficult to hold them accountable. So when you have this incongruency between responsibility and practice and practicality, which we've had over the last I can't count how many years, you have people who are really good at their jobs, right? And they, no matter what you have, they can do it. But when we hire somebody in without expectations, without guidelines, policies, procedures, it's difficult for them unless they are one of those all-stars to be successful. So for us, you know, putting these things into place and having a professional services company with a great reputation, I think, is paramount. Plus, we've hired somebody who certainly has the skills and abilities and has done it before. So I'm encouraged by that. I am very comfortable saying, you know, this is a 3-month temporary contract because we don't have those measurements in place. We haven't been able to really be able to say this is what it should or should not happen. So these over the next 3 months and getting that data, I think, will be really good for us to know whether or not we do need to keep them, what that will cost, and we will have a much stronger proposal moving forward if it needs to be extended.
Councilman Parker. Your microphone.
Understandably, certainly.
Your microphone.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Understandably, the next month or so will certainly be the holiday season. Will that impact the length of this contract?
Well, I would hope not. I hope that people will still apply for jobs that they see online over the holiday season. And when we come back, we'll get all of the interviews in and do our hiring as soon as possible, as long as we have qualified candidates. I don't imagine that holidays would stop people from doing an online application.
No, I know it won't stop them from applying, but I do know that during the holiday seasons, work output sometimes becomes decreased because it is a holiday season and everybody's not there. Some people that are here are going to be trying to get on vacation. So is there, I know you said for 3 months, but
Quite
because
honestly,
this next month is the first month is going to be holiday, so should
It
we
might-
it might, go ahead.
I'm sorry. It might work to our benefit that it is the holiday season. There is typically a decrease in planning and zoning submittals during the month of December. because of the holiday season. So that will give the consultant some extra time to speed through the reviews that we have. And we can use our current manager to also do those reviews, and it'll help us clear out that backlog. But we will find the time to make sure that we interview people at a steady rate and make sure that we get the department staffed as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, speakers list is exhausted. Roll call on adoption of the resolution to approve an agreement between the city and Carlisle Wortman Associates Incorporated for plan review services on a temporary basis for 3 months. Clerk Doyle.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes?
McGinnis.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution to approve the Senior Center Improvements Contract Award with PDSI Contractors and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement?
Moved by Carrington.
Support.
It has been moved by President Pro Tem Carrington, seconded by Councilman Goodman. The motion is now before us. Mayor and administration, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, President McGinnis. Before I invite up the purchasing manager to get into the details of the bid and the selection, I do just want to note, and I know some members of the public reflected on this as well. I'm really excited about this contract award because it is being given to a Pontiac-based business, a construction firm that has a lot of experience and that we know will do a great job doing the work in a timely, quality way. But the fact that it's going to a Pontiac-based business is something that's a very high priority for our administration whenever we can make sure that we keep that work here locally. That's a boost not only to that individual business, but to the overall community. And so we're really excited about this bid and the fact that they were the lowest bidder, and we know they're going to do a great job on these projects. And without further ado, I want to invite Purchasing Manager Martin to get into the details.
Thank you, Mayor Grimo. The City of Pontiac, I did present this to our Facilities Committee on earlier this month, about a week ago, I believe. The City of Pontiac and architectural firm Hubble, Roth, and Clark conducted a competitive bid process for the Senior Center Improvement Project. 37 organizations requested our RFP documents. Out of the 37, 31 of the firms were headquartered or located in Michigan. A total of 3 firms submitted a sealed bid in response to the solicitation, and PDSI Contractors was the lowest bidder. That is one of the requirements of some of the funding that will be coming to us to fund the project from the CDBG, is that we award to the lowest bidder for this particular project, so that was the requirement. Are there any questions for me regarding this project, or Deputy Mayor, is there additional information you would like to add?
No, just field questions from City Council.
Okay.
Discussion on the motion before us. So to recap, this is for improvements that will happen at both the Bowens Senior Center on Bagley Street and the Ruth Peterson Senior Center on Joslin Road. Do you have a time estimate in terms of completion of the improvements?
So they have a deadline of December to complete a portion of the project, which is $90,000 worth. That's under the Next 50 grant that we received. And then the remaining time frame for them to complete the project, for that date. I apologize, I had this in front of me. Can I come back to that question as I'm looking for the date? I have it here. I'm just looking for it. Are there any other questions while I'm looking for that?
Further discussion on the motion before us. Councilwoman James.
Do you know if the center will need to be closed, the centers, will they need to be closed? Will the work be done while the centers are opened?
There will be some areas that will need to be closed off in order, for safety purposes, so that no one is injured, of course, in various locations as they work.
But they won't need to close the building itself?
Not to my knowledge, but I can find that out.
Okay.
Mayor Grimal?
Yeah, as Purchasing Manager Martin said, there certainly will be times when certain rooms or spaces have to be closed off, but the entirety of the buildings should not need to be closed. Because the vast majority of the work, at least, is inside the buildings, it is work that can progress throughout the winter months as well. So it's not a situation where it needs to be delayed until there's warmer weather. So I don't know if the contract specifies exactly when the end date of the construction in its entirety is. I know that Manager Martin mentioned the fact that $90,000 of the work needs to be completed by the end of December. But we anticipate that this work will be completed by spring or at the very latest midsummer.
And on a related follow-up, obviously, portion of that will be the Next 50 grant is the budgetary source. Will we need to anticipate in the near future a budget amendment for the balance of that work, or is it coming from an existing general ledger account that when we adopted the budget where it's essentially self-sustained in the existing adopted budget?
So I don't believe that you're going to need an actually, yes, you will need a budget amendment, but let me explain. You have the $90,000. You have CDBG funds, which is, we anticipate will be somewhere around $150,000 or so. And the remaining funds will come out of ARP dollars, which you've already approved a framework budget and putting some of that money into community centers. But when the actual final number is approved, you will have to do a budget amendment to actually move that money for expenditure.
Roger that. And Director Martin?
So I can share with Alex, our grant professional provided us with this feedback. There is an upcoming grant opportunity. The award ceiling is $250,000 for each center, which will total $500,000. So outside of the amounts that our deputy mayor indicated for the Next 50 and the CDBG grant, she is seeking additional grant funding, which she's confident that she'll be able to obtain.
Fantastic. Further discussion, Councilman Nicholson.
I want to point out it always floors me, and especially because my constituents will call on a regular basis and say, well, you've got this amount of money, why can't you just go and do this, and that? We're not buying anything gold or platinum, but for touchless faucets, right, $6,000 is what this is costing. And this is not, these aren't, we're not, we have a purchasing manager, right? We've quoted all of this out. This is the lowest bid. So just to put things in perspective, I like doing that when we paved the street, right, downtown, and we talked about, 3 blocks of street and that enormous price tag. But these are today's dollars, $6,000.
Further discussion,
I'd like
Councilman James.
These contracts look really good, and I just would like to compliment our purchasing manager on the appearance of the contracts, the clarity of the contracts. Looks really good.
Thank you. Any final information before we conclude?
No.
Hearing no further discussion, the speakers list is exhausted. Roll call on adoption of the resolution to approve the Senior Center Improvements Contract Award with PDSI Contractors and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement. Clerk Doyle.
Parker?
Yes.
Carrington?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Goodman. James?
Yes.
McGinnis?
Yes.
Nicholson?
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. The resolution is adopted, and we look forward to the progress to come. We are now at public comment. President Pro Tem Carrington, are there any requests?
Thank you, President McGinnis. Ms. Gloria Miller.
There was no the council go backwards on it. But I'm ready. Last week, the mayor spoke and Councilman Carrington spoke on me regarding the Panthers. And I come here to get it straight, because when you go after my character, I go after you. And Mayor, you have a hard time telling the truth at times, because I go to a lot of your meetings, you come here, you don't speak the same truth. So I will call you out. With that being said, the money that went to the Panthers, I'm the first council person ever in the city of Pontiac to give the Panthers any money. And they can't get a lousy $10,000. Now, Mayor, while you calling me out about the vote, if you was into our government at that time last year, which you weren't, you should have known that me and Patrice Waterman was into it. It was 2 meetings, and we really went head to head because she wanted Meals on Wheels to get most of the money. And then the council president jumped up and said, well, I want some too. So when I come back for the next meeting, we went back and forth. It was very contentious. And I voted no on it because I said no because the Panthers deserve more than $10,000 when the Meals on Wheels got $65,000 and Kids First initiative got $25,000. Very great organization. But I'm a person that believes that I'm an equal opportunity. I love my seniors, I love my kids, and they all should have got equal amount of that money. So that's why my no vote was there. With that being said also, I said to Councilman Carrington and Gil Garrett, I stand by that. Gil Garrett is on the school board. He's on the body of the Panthers. He should be advocating for him to play in the field. Mr. Carrington is on the board. I used to sit there, Mr. Carrington. I heard you say you're not going to do anything illegal. I sat there for 4 years, never did one thing illegal. Never wanted to. Wouldn't ask you to. When you get this CDBG money, it is very transparent. You come out, you have a hearing, and then you decide, and the people get a chance and opportunity to speak on it. Who in Pontiac wouldn't want the Panthers to have some money? And what you're not mentioning, Mayor, is that it was 3 applicants for that whole CDBG fund. It was $100,000. None of the 3 entities turned in the application correctly. I know because I went to the county. When I can't get results here, you know how it works. I keep moving till I get it. No one has submitted those applications. Maybe now they have because it was a lot of discrepancy with the application. Things that make you go, I've been here a long time, Mayor. I've been on this ground a long time. I don't have to talk, I walk it. That's why my feet bother me all the time. I've been out to the Panthers, gave them water, sponsored kids. I don't brag what I do. Of course, you're never going to mention that I'm the one that the reason the skate park is here. Check a look at the tape. Because they were here under us, and they had until that month to get that money matched. I said you could have $100,000 from the animal control. That's why it's here today, because the level council wouldn't have been able to do it, because it was under us. Tell some of the good I do.
That
I
does
don't know.
conclude your
I don't
time.
know about you.
Thank you. Mr. Chuck Johnson. Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen, those of you here in the audience and those of you at home watching by television. I want to start by saying what I'm thankful for this thankful season, Thanksgiving season. I'm very thankful to have the beautiful lady that I have and have had for the last 37 years in my home, Pam Johnson. That is what I am very much grateful and thankful for, the beautiful lady in my life. So I hope I get some sweet potato pie when I get home. I want to discuss, as I started to do on item 6 on the agenda, and I'm concerned about that item because I need to hear from someone more detailed information regarding how the city is going to tackle the abandoned cars and the yards and on the streets, et cetera, et cetera. And as I started naming individuals that I have already brought to their attention, the junk cars and trailers on Mechanic Street, east of Paddock, it's time for that crap to go. I don't know why the city has not made any effort to either violate or ticket or tow that junk off the street or out of the yard. We had a fire truck on that street the other day, and the truck couldn't come down the street. He wasn't going to a fire. He was coming from a fire. And there's a junk trailer on one side of the street and a junk trailer and truck and other vehicles on the other side. So he had to slow down and creep through that. Supposing he was on his way to the fire. Mike, you know what I'm talking about. And you need to do something about it. Because if you don't, I'm going to come back down here every week from now on, and I'm going to bring it up. You got to make some initiative and do something with this abandoned vehicles around our city. Our snowplow trucks won't be able to get through. Emergency vehicles can't get through. Not only on Mechanic Street, but any street in this city. Now, I was going to elaborate, Mayor, on this planning thing, but I'm gonna meet with you in person because I'm not happy with that. And what I got to say, I'm not gonna say it at this mic. I'm gonna call you and set a time that I can talk with you and the director of that department. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mike Lombardi.
Board members, I got this in the mail yesterday. It's about an abandoned vehicle in my driveway that runs. Both cars do. They're my twin sons' cars. One of them got in an accident, the fender's hanging a little bit, but it still runs. They are not plated because they can't afford it, because they've got other cars they've got to deal with. On here it says that you cannot keep a stored car on your premises. I looked it up on the laws, and it doesn't say anything about driveways. It says streets, expressways, and parking lots. Nothing about driveways. I don't want to be pressured for this, because I can't afford it, and my sons can't afford it. Okay, and they really don't want to get rid of their cars, you know, plated or not. And I just want this code enforcement, Aaron Tillman, just to leave us alone. Because like I said, both cars run. You know, they're just haven't decided what to do with the cars yet. You know? And I think that we should just be left alone. You know? A few years ago, I came in here about living on the corner of Nevada and Bagley and dealing with golf balls. You know, Miss Waterman was the council. She was the mayor. And they had a net put up, but it took me 3 months to get it done, but it got done. You know, and I thank you for that. You know, but this, I just want to be left alone. I don't want to have to get rid of these cars. You know, my son's got a perfectly running car, and he's saving it for me when my truck breaks down. You know, because I can't afford to get another truck or another car. So he's helping me out. You know, I just want to be left alone. And I got this in the mail yesterday, and it said on the 21st, and it says right here, the 21st. Violation by the 21st on the same day. There's no timeline there for me to do anything. I really don't want to do anything. I just want the cars to stay there. And I appreciate it if this guy would back off. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Tamika Ramsey.
Good evening. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Tamika Ramsey, and I am the founder and managing associate at T. Ramsey and Associates. We've been around since 2015. Our firm has provided a lot of small business support in the city of Pontiac. Our goal was to not hold this work. It was to do it until the entities that were supposed to be able to do it could do it, such as the city, the chamber, and now Pontiac Community Foundation. In 2018, the city of Detroit and the city of Flint were doing Small Business Saturday, and I saw that it was not happening in the city. And so that year, T. Ramsey and Associates provided our first Small Business Saturday event at 91 North Saginaw, the building that I rent space in. We had vendors up and down the building, and it was very good. So we have done Small Business Saturday every year since then. In 2021, we created the Pontiac Small Business Saturday Coalition, which brought government, nonprofit, and for-profit entities together as the city was undergoing a rebirth. We will be doing a very big event for Small Business Saturday this Saturday, November 26th. I wanted to clear up some confusion. T. Ramsey and Associates has never provided or offered or taken any money to do Small Business Saturday. We were doing it because it needed to be done. Small businesses were hurting, especially during COVID, and so any vendor fee that we took, and I think we took one for 2 years, it was just a deposit to make sure that people showed up. The fee was always returned. We have worked with Main Street Pontiac, which provided insurance for multiple Small Business Saturdays. We've also worked with the Strand Theater, who also in the last couple of years provided free space for these small business pop-ups. This year we have 5 actual pop-ups, and we have multiple small businesses around the city. So this year we are able to do things not just downtown, but around the entire city. We will also have a food truck alley right in front of Crowfoot, which will have food trucks so people can eat while people are shopping downtown and across the city. I say all this to say the Small Business Saturday Coalition is open to any small business or entity that would like to be a part of it. We would like to be able to grow this event really, really big. But also, small businesses are the footprints of our country. And in order for us to continue to grow as a city, we need to continue to support small businesses. The dollar stays in the city longer. Residents get hired. And so if anybody is interested, they can please feel free to contact me at 248-648-0551. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Billy Swayzer.
Good evening. I am Billy Swayzer. I am the treasurer of the City of Pontiac Retired Employees Association, CPRA. This year, and in the next few weeks, you will elect the 4 representatives for our directors of our board. The people who are running is myself, James Mariani, Francis Finnegan. We're all current directors of CPRA. The other 2 that are running are Robert Marchbanks and Pamela Britton. I ask that you turn in your ballots. They have been mailed to all fully paid members. It has come to my attention that some people who have not paid want to vote. Well, you have to pay your dues in order to vote. And if you haven't paid your dues, they're going to check with me, and I will verify whether you've paid them or not. And it is $100 a year since 2012 that you had to pay. You had to pay your dues each year. So to 2012 to 2021 is $1,000, and then after. But you paid your dues every year $100. Most of us paid when we got our checks in November or the first of the year, because they're due on the January 1st of every year. 2022, there are no dues due, and so far for 2023, there will be no dues due. I ask everyone to put your ballot in the mail right now, because we're checking it about 3 times a week to see if your ballot has come back, and there's an election committee that will go over the ballots and determine who won what positions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Portia McIntosh, CAD.
That's Cade. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Those who are Pontiac Panther representative, coaches, parents, volunteer, board, if you would stand with me and trust that the words that I am getting ready, or the letter that I am stating here, not only comes from my heart, my soul, my spirit, and everything that goes along with me as I delve into Pontiac Panther organization. I serve as the secretary of the Pontiac Panther Youth Football and Cheerleading Organization. First, as a representative of the board of directors, coaches, parents, and volunteers of our organization, we would first like to say thank you for recognizing our organization and especially our children for an amazing job on the football field for a winning season. Second, there are many things that I have learned, but one of the most important things is the thing that I want to share with you today. There are many people who want to be in charge, but not everyone is equipped to lead, nor do they want the leadership responsibilities. We, the board of directors, have the responsibility and have accepted the responsibility of the business associated with the Pontiac Panther organization. And coupled with the city and those who are assigned charge have supported us with this daunting task. Please know that as we move forward in our 35th year of service to our children and this amazing city, we hold the great task of business, professionalism, love, learning the sports of football and cheer, friendship, and lifelong lessons that are very high on our list of responsibilities. And we will continue to serve just this, nothing more and nothing less. Again, we say thank you to our parents, our families of our children, for entrusting your children in us. So let us continue to grow together as an organization, as a city, and as a board. We ask that you continue to work with us as we continue to work with you. Respectfully submitted, our President, Jennifer Prince Washington, our Vice President, Danielle Sowell, myself, Secretary Portia McIntosh Cade, our Treasurer, William Carrington, our Football Coach Director, Brent Sykes, our Cheerleader Director, Sherry Saunders, and Trustee Gil Garrett. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bill Maxey.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Pontiac, community at large, and the governance. There's so many things going on. I'm sitting here thinking that as a community we are not doing. On one hand, I'm satisfied. On the other, I'm not. But in priority, we know the needs of our people here in the city of Pontiac. I'll try and prioritize. Number one, veterans. If you need monies to pay for your lights, your gas bill, your mortgage, contact ACES. I sit on the board of the Veteran Trust Fund now, the first African American to sit there. And you might ask me, what does that mean? You know, you don't have to ask me. That number again is 248-762-4953. But one thing I'm dissatisfied with, I cannot understand as many resources as boards that I sit on, and I tell the council this every time I'm up here. I've told you about the shoes before. I told you about the food. Do you know who contacts me? And this is what really upsets me. Pastor Parker's always offering his vehicle. McCall always, excuse me, I'm mispronouncing your name, asks the question, well, what are you guys thinking? We have resources in this city. Yes, I have 2 grants and can fund every district. I don't hear from the council persons. You think I'm standing up here? I come up here to cry? No. It's true. Action. ACTION. Now we've had a shipment of leggings for women for the cold, the men's shoes, MREs, and canteens. They no longer have to carry a bottle of water. The military ordered canteens for them. So they drink the water, go get coffee, whatever. But the only thing I'm saying to you, council, when do you talk? You pass resolutions. You talk. You talk. You talk. The only one I have a conversation with, and I'm trying not to be angry, I get more out of the mayor. So what if you don't care for my conversation or you don't like me? But I tell you what, keep doing what you do. The citizens of Pontiac will be taken care of because there are many, many grants. I could go 1 through 7. You all have problems, but the people are not getting the service. Just keep on pushing me. And I keep getting calls, different districts, to talk to your rep. No, can't get them, whatever. Get it together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Pastor Kathy.
First of all, I'm concerned about number 3 as well, and I would like a meeting with either the mayor or the deputy mayor regarding that one. Second of all, I want to congratulate our DPW. I was out Friday night during the multiple showers of snow and was caught on squirrel on the big hill that had not been sanded, and somebody stalled halfway up, and you just can only imagine the scramble that was going on at 5:30. And when I came back from Rochester, where I was headed, the only roads that were salted were Pontiac, for which I was very grateful. I was exhausted by then, but that has not been the case for so long, and it was just, you crossed the road and it was salted. And I mean salted, clean, runny. It was just great. So the DPW is to be congratulated. They got on board and really did the job. Also, those who did not attend the concert, the Thanksgiving concert at Pastor Parker's church, at Councilman Parker's church on Saturday, missed an event. His wife, you ever get a chance to hear Jennifer Parker sing? She can sing the house down. And she did a wonderful job, and we could be proud of that choir. That choir just did, and their kids. There was a youth choir and a kids choir. And those are our people. Those are our kids. And they made us proud. They did a wonderful, wonderful job. What I'm thankful for tonight, I'm thankful for this council, for the long hours that you've put in for the last 11 months, the hard work, and how much, for all the griping that people don't really understand, you've done a lot in 11 months. There's a lot more to do, and you're not going to make everybody happy doing it, but at least you're trying. And I'm grateful and thanks for all you do. Have a blessed Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Dr. Deidre Waterman.
I want to speak first about, I've been hearing this issue about the Panthers going back and forth over the last couple of weeks, and a thought came to mind. You know, there are a number of groups who are helping to advocate for our children and have good, healthy activities for them, particularly important since we don't have our youth center. It was closed, earlier this year that we brought to the city. But I know CDBG money, which is what is proposed for them, that was what former councilwoman was talking about. But if you can't get it through CDBG, because that is income limited, we understand that. But the other way we used to do combined programs for our children when I had the youth center was to do an MOU and have partners. That's how we did an MOU with the Sheriff's PAL to bring them in. So that's another way to do it, Mayor, you might consider. That is an organization that sponsors Pontiac children, and that's what our youth millage is supposed to represent. So that's just another thought. But I'm also happy that the grant was finally awarded with the contractor, who is a local contractor, and the name is PDSI. So that's great. I know this is the second time around with that award. The first time the RFP, there was a fault with that, and so you had to redo it. And the contractor, which was finally awarded with your vote today, lost by $1,000. So this is a way in which we have a local contractor, minor contractor, who is now going to get grants to do a city project, which is great. I hope you will also do the same thing for the ARP money. There's a lot of money in the American Rescue Plan money that should have consideration for local involvement and local contractors to be doing the projects in that money. I wanted to speak more about recreational marijuana, which I've spoken to before. I had someone who came up to me, I was in Home Depot, and she said, we heard you speak about the council wanting to bring recreational marijuana in and is considering whether they're going to bring it in by opting in or whether they're going to submit it to a vote of the people like they did for medical marijuana. And my point was, when I came to talk a couple years ago, a couple weeks ago, I'm sorry, and I didn't get to finish, was that you had a secret meeting about recreational marijuana to decide about that. But before it was decided by a vote of the people. But if you decide to bring it in, council, recreational, you have a chance to correct the faults in the way that medical marijuana provision was written. The people don't want, and I knew this from 35 town halls, the people do not want marijuana facilities in their neighborhoods. And there are loopholes in the present medical marijuana law that you should correct with recreational marijuana if you choose to bring that in. You should also make it so the community benefits are not decided in secret. They should be decided in concert with the district people, the people in the district that they're going to have that facility come to them. And they also should have a limited number.
That does conclude your time.
All right.
Thank you. That concludes public comment, President McGinnis.
Thank you, sir. We are now at our two discussion items. The first is body-worn cameras for Oakland County Sheriff deputies working in Pontiac. Council has been informed that they have been implemented. That question came up, of course, in recent public comment inquiries, and we wanted to make sure that the community received that update. It also was updated at a public safety town hall meeting as well. We give the floor to Mayor Grimel to elaborate further. Mayor Grimel.
Yeah, thank you very much, President McGinnis. This is something that we as a city have been pushing for really since all of us, the 8 of us as elected officials, were sworn in January. And I'm very happy to report that the body-worn cameras have now been deployed, that all sheriff's deputies are wearing activated body cameras. We announced that at the Public Safety Town Hall that occurred at the Bowen Center at the beginning of this month, but I wanted to also share it here at a city council meeting. So this is something that's very important, really from two perspectives. One is to hold deputies who engage in bad conduct accountable, but also to protect deputies. If they're falsely accused, there's no better way to exonerate deputies who may be falsely accused than having video evidence through a body-worn camera. So this is really about accountability for everybody and to make sure that law enforcement is doing the job that they're sworn to do, which is to protect and ensure the public safety of all of Pontiac's residents. And we just wanted to share that good news. It's something that I personally have been a big believer in for many, many years, which is deploying body-worn cameras on law enforcement agents. And I'm happy to say that that has now happened and has been in effect now for about a month, at least a month now, here in the city.
Thank you for that. Anyone wish to speak on this discussion item? Councilman Goodman.
So the first thing I'll say is I'm very happy, I guess is the wrong word to use, but very satisfied now that this very key and important part of what it means to protect our citizens is now implemented. Obviously, we've been fighting for this for months through supply chain problems and just some lack of communication. But I'm very happy to see this finally implemented because it has value. It has use value. We've seen it in other places. It's been very monumental in making sure that Black and brown communities are able to get justice when things happen. But not only that, given what happened here in our own city, where people say that things don't happen when in a situation where this camera would have been extremely useful. So the fact that we are now finally at that point where we can begin to implement technology that's incredibly important for a community like Pontiac, I am, again, happy to see that this is finally in place.
Further discussion? Part of the reason why I wanted to bring this for us to have this period at the end of the sentence, this body voted and calling for those body-worn cameras in recent months, and so this is a follow-up to that council action to show that that has been fulfilled. And Mayor, we ask that if there's other developments when you're overseeing and implementing our contract with the Sheriff's Department, feel free to update the council, and as needed, we can have further discussion items if there's other steps needed, resources needed, or developments with their active use. Hearing no further discussion, we move now to our second and final discussion item, progress in tackling abandoned vehicles on Pontiac neighborhood streets. We want to make the community know and be aware of two proactive campaigns that were undertaken by sheriff's deputies in recent days. There was essentially two cycles or two sweeps where they went throughout the community in our neighborhoods, and they're focusing on abandoned vehicles or inactive vehicles on the streets themselves. That is the domain of the Sheriff Department. So on November 9th, they tagged 74 vehicles throughout the city of Pontiac that were abandoned or otherwise inoperable and in the street. The moral of the story is that our neighborhood streets are not there to serve your commercial vehicle operation, to be your storage unit, to be the dump site of people just passing through Pontiac. And so we want to make sure that we're being very proactive with that. So on November 9th, 74 vehicles were tagged. And when that tag happens, 48-hour clock starts, and they have tags on the side of the window, 48 hours for that vehicle owner to claim it, move it, resolve it, and reconcile that issue where it is out of step with the city's ordinance. The second round of that was November 16th. 146 vehicles were tagged. So taken together, that's a no small amount of vehicles that adds up. So I just want to let you know that those were two proactive campaigns that were done, but on an ongoing daily basis, if you know of any vehicles that are abandoned or problematic that are in the street, please contact the non-emergency line for the Sheriff's Department. If you don't feel comfortable doing that and you want to let a city council member know or a member of the mayor's staff know, that is available too, and we will funnel that information to the appropriate unit within the Sheriff's Department contract. I heard the feedback from the District 7 constituent. I'm going to loop back and inquire what action happened specific to Mechanic Street, if either of those two campaigns made it over there, and if that yielded, and if that's part of this total. And then I'll also do a follow-up again to ensure that there's appropriate and fair enforcement of that ordinance for those streets as well. Councilman Nicholson?
When we took office, there was some confusion between our code enforcement, our former code enforcement staff and the Sheriff's Department. A lot of that had to do with the contract that's in place that we have with the Sheriff's Department regarding traffic enforcement, parking, things like that. While traffic enforcement was further defined near the end of the last administration and beginning of ours, the parking enforcement was still left in a pretty gray area. So there was a lot of finger pointing back and forth when we would call in, hey, there's a vehicle up on blocks on this street. Hey, there's a vehicle that's parked in the middle and it looks like it's not operable. Or, hey, there's a guy who's very clearly operating a repair shop out of his driveway, and there's 6 or 7 cars that are parked up and down the street that are blocking residents from being able to park in front of their homes. So as they worked through that process, the opportunity of also, and the problem of jurisdiction also came up, and they did work out this process now where the sheriff's department is tagging those vehicles while we are also then making them aware of them. But that starts then our code enforcement's responsibility. That ticket then gives them the opportunity to work back and forth with the buyers. I believe Buyers Towing is who that contract is with. But it's been very successful. Now, a member of the public did speak earlier about not wanting to be left alone by code enforcement. And again, we did make some pretty clear statements to the public that as code enforcement was stepped up, that you would see some of these things happen. And I can say this is a big, very obvious example of that. But I want to read the code that is listed on the actual letter that was mailed to that individual's home. It says, no inoperative or unlicensed, this is the city code 302.8, no inoperative or unlicensed, and license is the key, motor vehicle shall be parked or kept on any premise. So the deviation between driveway, this says any premise. It's very, very clear. Reason for that, not only is there the issue of, yes, and unfortunately, if you can't afford to have a vehicle registered, that is not our decision. That is the state of Michigan's decision. You will hear judges time and time again say, if you cannot afford to register or license a vehicle, you cannot afford to drive. Those vehicles aren't being driven. I understand that. However, those vehicles, and we have known this because we let the sheriff's department install flock cameras, can be and will be stolen. Once that plate is off that vehicle, that vehicle is as good as gone because the sheriff's department cannot help you at that point. So for the vehicle safety, for everyone's safety, if somebody were to take a child were to take a joyride in that car, because we heard tonight that it is running, we need that vehicle to be licensed, registered, and be able to know where that vehicle sleeps at night. That is the code. I don't see us being able to do too much about that code based on not wanting to conflict with state law. There are vehicles, that I've had people complaining about that are completely front end smashed, also some that are just up on blocks. They maybe didn't start that way earlier in the night, and this has given us, and really given our traffic and community policing the keen eye to be looking at those vehicles, wondering what's going on with them, and following up on them. So not only does this help us clean up our streets, it also helps us take a look and see where there are other crime-related activities going on. So I think it is a really valiant effort that our sheriff's department has taken, and our code enforcement has been key in making sure that this happens to its fullest extent.
Councilman Goodman? Okay. Others that wish to have the floor? Deputy Mayor Stevens.
I just want to follow up on what Councilman Nicholson said. So the code that he read, the city adopted, that's part of the International Property Code. And part of the reasoning behind the wording in that code goes back to the beginning of his statement, where the police department, the sheriff's officers, are working on vehicles in the streets. So if a vehicle is in the street and gets tagged, you can't just move that vehicle to a property and say, well, it's no longer in the street, and then move it back to the street with that 48 within, after that period has begun, and start a new 48-hour clock. So that's why the two items work hand in hand, so that you can't just play musical chairs with a vehicle from the street to the yard, from the street to the yard.
Other further discussion? Mayor Greimel?
Yeah, thank you. I do just want to note that I have brought the vehicles on Mechanic Street to the Oakland County Sheriff's Office's attention, and so I'll follow up with them and see if there's some reason why they don't believe that they merit tagging and towing, or if there's some other holdup on it. But I'll certainly investigate that specific concern that was shared by a member of the public.
And relatedly to Councilman Nicholson, I think it's Adler's Towing that has that. Thank you. Further discussion on this item? We'll continue to monitor it, and if it needs to come before full council for further discussion or future action, obviously we will take that, but it's important for keeping our neighborhood safe and clean that our neighborhood streets get the attention and servicing with our contracted agencies and direct city staff. All right, hearing no further discussion, we move now to council communications. On trash collection days, Pontiac residents can now place up to 20 lawn refuse bags at the curb for collection to accommodate for leaf removal. A little off script, Mayor, did we get an answer yet in terms of if they're going to change, or is it still November 30th, the target for when they'll conclude leaf collection?
It's still November 30th, is the short answer. And I think the bulk of the leaves are down in any event. And so, as I said when we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, we really encourage residents to utilize this, for many people anyway, longer holiday weekend, to collect those leaves in your yard and get them out on the curb next week after the Thanksgiving weekend, so that they can be collected in a timely way.
Thank you. Now through January 4th, Mittens for Detroit is collecting new mittens and glove donations for children, including a pickup site at the Pontiac Community Foundation, which is 79 Oakland Avenue in Pontiac. Let us help tutoring, essay writing, computer skills, financial literacy, resume writing, and interview preparation. A free community service is Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 6 to 8 p.m., held at Pontiac Seventh-day Adventist Church, 182 South Sanford. Grave blankets at Oak Hill Cemetery and Ottawa Park Cemetery are still available for ordering. You can contact 248-623-7705 for more information. South Boulevard tree lighting for District 1 is upcoming this Saturday, November 26th. And thank you to Mr. Muscavelli and other community members that are involved in bringing that to life. The Southside Carolers has their first rehearsal with Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford, November 26th, 3 o'clock p.m., held at New Springfield Missionary Baptist Church at 124 Prospect Street. You can contact Councilwoman Rutherford with questions at 248-758-3017. The annual holiday tree lighting ceremony in downtown outside the district courthouse at the corner of Saginaw and Huron is on Friday evening, December 2nd. And the next day, December 3rd, is the annual holiday extravaganza parade, and that runs along Cesar Chavez, Oakland Avenue, and Saginaw Street in downtown Pontiac. Ottawa Park Cemetery, owned by the City of Pontiac, has their tree lighting event December 8th at 6:30 p.m., held at the Ottawa Park Chapel, 6180 Dixie Highway in Clarkston. Prayers will be offered, and the names of those laid to rest will be read with refreshments to follow. Additional council communications are included in the hard copy of the agenda you can find in person in the chambers tonight or on the city's website. We now turn to closing comments. Mayor Tim Greimel.
Thank you, President McGinnis. I want to begin by saying that I really appreciate the candor and honesty of former Councilwoman Gloria Miller in acknowledging that she voted no on funding the Pontiac Panthers, which is what I pointed out last week, and I appreciate her explanation as to why she voted no. I also want to emphasize that we're not treating any of the recipients of CDBG funds differently than others. Because community development block grant dollars are income restricted and have to be used for recipients in certain income thresholds and within certain income guidelines, it's required under federal law that we receive appropriate documentation. And that's true of all of the recipients of CDBG funds. None of the allocated groups who the previous city council allocated funding for will receive funding or have received funding without first providing that required documentation. I really appreciate the presentation by the Pontiac Panthers this evening about their amazing volunteer service. It's something that I really admire. And I have asked my assistant to reach out to Portia and to get a meeting scheduled with Portia, anybody else who she'd like to include from the Pontiac Panthers board, along with any interested city council people, Alex Borngesser, who handles our grants, including the CDBG funds, and me, so that we can go through again in detail. I know that Ms. Borngesser has been in touch with some members of the board, but I want to be a part of that meeting just to make sure that we're all on the same page about a path forward. In addition, I did just want to speak to recreational marijuana. The Open Meetings Act in the state is very clear, and for good reason, that boards can meet in closed session to talk about legal advice from their attorney. And so the only closed session that we had regarding recreational marijuana was about the legal lay of the land and the legal advice of the city's attorneys at Clark Hill about the parameters within which an ordinance can be laid. And so the actual discussion on the ordinance will all be done publicly in terms of the substance and the policy. We have directed the city's attorneys to bring forward a proposed ordinance to council for discussion. Under the applicable law, the ordinance will have to be publicly discussed at least twice before a vote. And so there'll be at least 2 city council meetings where proposed recreational marijuana ordinance is discussed. And we look forward to hearing public comment about the details regarding any proposal that's brought forward. I also wanted to, and I know a member of the public did this as well, but I really just want to say what an amazing and beautiful concert there was at New Springfield Missionary Baptist Church on Saturday. I was really pleased to be able to be in attendance, and I don't want to make Pastor Parker blush as I compliment his family, but the First Lady, Sister Parker, really does have an incredibly beautiful voice, and the entire concert was just a real joy to be at as a member of the audience. And then finally, I do want to just encourage Pontiac residents to participate in Small Business Saturday this weekend. This is an opportunity for us as residents and customers to turn out and support our local business people. It's something that we really need to do throughout the entire year, but this is an opportunity to attend some of these events and get to know some of the local entrepreneurs, the local small businesses who you might not otherwise even know are out there in business. And so I really encourage folks to turn out for this Small Business Saturday. And I also want to just commend and thank publicly Tamika Ramsey for her incredible work over many years, typically as a volunteer in the past, really helping to support so many small business folks here in the city, so many talented entrepreneurs as they seek to get their name out and as they seek to attract support so that they can flourish, grow, and really be successful and develop their full potential as amazing and successful businesses in the years to come. So many, many thanks to Tamika for her amazing work over so many years and in, I'm sure, the future as well.
Thank you, Mayor Grimel. It's probably already known by the community, but I want to emphasize that in the coming days, Pontiac City Hall will be closed, of course, for the Thanksgiving holiday, and I understand also the Friday after, correct? So at the end of this week, Thursday and Friday, Pontiac City Hall will be closed. We just want to make sure that all residents were aware of that. Clerk Garland Doyle, any closing comments?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm glad the mayor brought up the issue of marijuana. As it relates to medical marijuana, this is the second time that a member of the public has alleged that the community benefits section of the medical marijuana applications were scored in secret. This is simply untrue. State law, not city ordinance, exempts marijuana application contents from public disclosure. I worked very hard to ensure that the application process was fair and transparent. There was a total of 10 points awarded for community benefits under the philanthropic and community improvement section of the application. As a part of the scoring, community support for the pledged community benefits had to be shown. Each applicant had to include a description of the applicant's plans for responding to community concerns, a description of the applicant's efforts to connect with community leaders, a description of the involvement of key stakeholders in their programs. So I just want to clear that up for the public's benefit. And on that, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving and wish my wife a happy birthday. Tomorrow's her birthday. Thank you.
Happy birthday to Garland Doyle's wife. All right, thank you, sir. Closing comments, Councilman Nicholson, District 2.
I want to directly speak to my constituent, former Mayor Deirdre Waterman. I've always been very clear about how intelligent I believe they are. Saying that, I think they know very well that closed session is what it's called, not secret meeting. And I think it's also very clear that she probably didn't hold many of those because it didn't seem that she cared too much what the council thought of what she did. So why would you bring your council into a closed session and have legal services there to be able to guide us and give us the best practices and what is not? And I know that there probably were closed sessions, so I'm sure she knows the correct and proper term for those meetings. Want to also give credit to other constituents who were incredibly involved in things that others took credit for this evening, especially Dave and Mary Jane Rennie, who were instrumental, and without them, we would not have a Pontiac skate park. Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, who worked incredibly diligently with other members and supporters in on the Democratic side of Congress to make sure that our ARP dollars got to where they ended up. I think it is great for everybody who was involved in the process to say, I had a hand in that. But to say that they were the person who did it, it's simply untrue. And for us to continue to have to be fact finders, and for others to pit anybody to start an argument or to make it seem like there's something that's untoward, I think you'll just keep getting the facts. And the facts are there, and the facts are written, and the facts were televised in many sentences, terms, and the facts are in the grant proposals. Whose names are on those grant proposals? Whose names are on the emails begging and pleading for our ARP dollars to be re-reviewed? It's great that you had a hand in it, but it's just untrue that anybody has a single hand in anything in city government. Not one single one of us can do anything by ourselves. So there's that. Mr. Maxey, I will take you up on your offer. I do have a resident that called me this evening with a concern who is a veteran. I will say this is the first time, and every single time I have a concern call from a constituent, they ask me, or I ask them, are you a veteran? Because I know that there are tremendous resources there through all of the advocacy groups that he's involved in, so I will certainly be giving you a call. Apart from that, I want to make sure that everybody remembers that the District 2 holiday party is this coming Monday. That's at 7 o'clock at Goldner Walsh. We will have a cookie exchange and a silly sweater event going on. And there will be a prize for the silly sweater, so make sure that you put in all of your efforts.
All right, with that, Councilman Mikhail Goodman, District 3.
First thing I would say is I'm very happy to be back. Not being here last week was really annoying to me, and the only reason I was not here is because I literally was not physically able to speak to a certain point. So I am very happy to be back doing my job. To piggyback off of what my colleague said, there is a lot that is said about a person when they attempt to breed discontent and fight legitimacy for whatever reason that is other than based out of fact. And the fact that we have to watch a member of, a former member of city government, which is meant to instill in the people the idea that, at least at home, this building functions for us. So for that person to come up here every other week to, in many ways, waste time, not because they are a member of the public speaking, but because they are using that time to sow unnecessary discontent that is not grounded in reality. And as a person who follows politics, and as a person who belongs to the same political party that that person does, it is very bothersome to me to watch them behave the way that they do and essentially try to make this body and this government seem illegitimate through the decisions that we make despite their actions. So the fact that we have to sit here and fight back and prove to the citizens every single day that we are a legitimate body capable of making forthright decisions is annoying. It is disgusting because as a person who believes in this body just as much as my colleagues do, as much as a person who at one point held the seat in this city that is meant to be the functioning person of government, it bothers me heavily. And that behavior has long-term effects. And the most extreme versions of it are versions that have affected personal friends of mine, not just in the state legislature, like the man who sat in that seat and having watched people make that body seem illegitimate, but also what happened in January 6th and watching people make that body seem illegitimate. And while it is not to the same extreme, the behaviors are the same. And if you, as a person who is supposed to have upheld these ideas, a person who ran to be sitting in that same seat, to be upholding those same ideas, but you behave this way and you do everything you can to make this body seem illegitimate, whether or not you disagree with our decisions, because sometimes I agree with our own, disagree with our own decisions, some of my own colleagues, but I do not make this body seem illegitimate because I recognize that at least here, it functions the way that it's supposed to, whether I agree with it or not. So with that, I say, if you have problems with the system, do everything you can to fight it and make it better, but do not make it seem illegitimate just because it's not working for you. But with that, I say good night.
Councilwoman Kathleen James, District 4.
Good evening, everyone. Turn it off instead of on. Okay. Good evening. Just one announcement. District 4 will hold its next community council meeting first of the year, January 26, 2022. And our meetings are regularly scheduled for the fourth Thursday of every month, and we hold them at the New Mount Moriah International Church on Walton Boulevard. That addresses 313 West Walton Boulevard. So we look forward to having next year, to having a great year, improving District 4, and our motto is District 4, Building Community. With that, I want to wish everyone a wonderful Thanksgiving. Now, everybody knows that Thanksgiving is different depending on who you are. If you are a man, generally you're spending it watching your football games, but ladies generally spend 12 hours to 16 hours before in the kitchen cooking. So I am gearing up for my marathon, and I want to wish everyone out there have a great Thanksgiving holiday with your family. Enjoy, and by all means, be thankful, because in spite of everything, God is good. Okay?
Amen.
Thank you.
Councilman William Parker Jr., District 5.
Thank you, Brother President. I just want to ask that as we move forward in this Thanksgiving season, that we will remember 4 of our patriarchal pastors in the city who have seems to be under the weather a little bit with health issues. If we remember Bishop William Murphy of the New Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church, New Mount Moriah Church. If we would remember Pastor Robert Martin of Providence Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Roger Jackson of Providence Missionary Baptist Church, and Pastor James Keys of Monument of Faith Missionary Baptist Church. They are dealing with health issues during this season. I would ask that you would keep them lifted up in your prayers. I would also ask that you would remember our CDC president, Sister Lucy Payne, and her family. Lucy was involved in an accident about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Her car was totaled. She was in hospital for a period of time, and she's now at home recuperating, which makes me believe that she will not be available for our December 8th meeting. So we're not going to meet in December 8th. We would not meet December 8th, and I pray that she gets better, that we might be able to meet on the second Thursday in January. I want to thank each and every one of you who came to the New Springfield Missionary Baptist Church concert last Saturday. It certainly was a marvelous event, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. I want to thank each and every one of the people who donated to our turkey and food giveaway. We gave away over 200 turkeys and over 150 boxes of food last Saturday, as we do every third Saturday. So we want to thank everybody for contributing to that. And finally, I want to just wish everybody a healthy and happy Thanksgiving season. Please remember that this is the season when suicides increase, depression increase, all of those things, and people will start to remember family and friends that are no longer here. So please keep everyone lifted in your prayers, because they may not be where you are in this happy holiday season. And with that, I say good evening.
Thank you very much. Council President Pro Tem William A. Carrington, District 6.
Thank you, President McGinnis. I will keep this pretty brief. Early today, actually, it's been a long day for me. I've been working pretty late at night at Wayne State. But when I got here to council meeting today, it was a card left for me. And this is for a resident that doesn't have an automobile and doesn't have a cell phone. So she actually walks from the 6th district down to City Hall so she can communicate with me. And I won't mention her name, but she stated, "Your thoughtfulness means so much more than words can say. Being a man of your word is very appreciated." And I felt so good hearing that because I tried to always be a man of my word as I've served this city for the past 8 years in actually school district as well as now on the city council. And sometimes sitting in the seat, you don't get those positive reinforcements of some of the things that you're doing. And with work, in my other jobs, actually teaching at Henry Ford College as well as Wayne State in the daytime, sometimes it gets overwhelming. So to hear that really made me feel good today. Also, I'd like to thank the Pontiac Panthers for being here. I've been on that board 5 years, and I'm so happy for what we have, how we have grown over the last 5 years. So I thank you for coming and making that powerful statement to the city government. Also, I'd like to thank State Rep Brenda Carter. Every Thanksgiving, I'm always able for the last 10 years, well, let me count, let me be sure. Well, ever since she's been a state rep, I've been able to call her and say, "State Rep Brenda Carter, I need at least 20, 25 turkeys so I can give out in the 6th district to seniors." And she always come through for me. So I want to give her a thank you for that. I also want to say that Thanksgiving is more than the festivities. It gives us time to ponder upon what lessons we learn and how we can spread happiness around. It also gives us an opportunity to look back at all the great moments for the year and good people who came into our lives during that year. I appreciate the city of Pontiac, its people. I appreciate the 6th district. And I appreciate each and every one of you for giving me the opportunity to serve this city. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your loved ones and your families, and have a fantastic holiday season this year. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Mike McGinnis, District 7's councilperson. I want to recognize that Councilwoman Melanie Rutherford had a really impressive District 1 meeting and fellowship at the Bowen Center this last weekend. Pro Tem Carrington and I were able to be there along with Mayor Greimel, but very strong turnout, really good program, a lot of positive feedback and helpful feedback that they offered for the city council leadership as well as with Councilwoman Rutherford. So I want to acknowledge that and also say that it lights a fire under me that when we have the District 7 gathering, our next gathering is December 12th, Monday, December 12th. That's at 7 p.m. at Prospect Church, 351 Prospect Street. I'm going to try and bring more bells, more whistles, more treats, more refreshments, so that way it's a true holiday gathering. And District 5, if you're not having your December gathering, you can come on down to ours, and we can, because we had a very strong showing of District 7 representatives at the District 1 gathering this last weekend. So I want to thank District 1 and Councilwoman Rutherford for her hospitality on that. And please, everyone, mark your calendar for the East Side Community Meeting and our holiday gathering for December 12th. This Thanksgiving season, I want to say on behalf of the City Council and all 61,000 residents of Pontiac, I'm thankful for Legislative Counsel Monique Sharp and Outreach Specialist Daryl Earl for choosing Pontiac for their professional pursuits and putting their talents to use to benefit our residents and strengthen this council. I am very thankful for Pontiac City Clerk Garland Doyle and his professional staff for being very professional, for being very patient, and for being a Pontiac resident. That's pretty great that we have yeah, all right, well, let's not get crazy. I'm just thankful that he's a Pontiac resident. I'm grateful for his Pontiac residency. I'm really grateful for Mayor Greimel and Deputy Mayor Stevens for being extremely experienced, extremely intelligent, very dedicated, and also very responsive to all city council members with the many questions, feedback, and concerns that we bring on behalf of residents. Really grateful for your partnership. I'm also grateful that Deirdre Waterman is not mayor of Pontiac. I also want to say I'm grateful for the other 6 city council members. This is a very hardworking, very smart, very physically attractive group of people. No, I'm kidding. But, well, it's how I feel, and I think it's really important. Order, please, in the chambers. I'm really grateful that we have order, please, in the chambers. I'm very grateful for the leadership that the people of Pontiac put in place. And I think that week after week, the misinformation and dissension that the previous mayor inserts into the conversation is very destabilizing for the people of Pontiac. And I'll keep being emphatic on that point. But thank you, City Council members, for your work and your putting your time in for the people of Pontiac. Is there a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
So moved. Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Nicholson, seconded by Councilman Parker, that we adjourn this evening's meeting. Hearing no discussion on the motion, roll call, Clerk Doyle.
Harrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
James,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
6 yeas, no nays.
That motion carries. We stand adjourned at 8:15 p.m.